It's included. So please use. So it's expensive, you don't have to buy. But I usually suggest when this class was one of the core courses, so keep the textbook. So like for example, the traditional subject in computer science, including database, network, algorithm, what else? The programming, the OP, and what else? We have the operating system and the computer architecture. Those are the fundamental course, basic course of the computer science. I know nowadays there are more hot subjects like the deep learning and machine learning, data mining, and so on. But still, those subjects are based on the core courses. So sometimes I look up my old textbook is 20 years old. So like for example, operating system. Unfortunately, this semester there's no operating system class. So hopefully the next semester. So somebody already used the old textbook, very famous textbook is Dinosaur, authored by the professor in the Yale. So I sometimes look up the old textbook because the computer is a computer. So the major is based on the computer. It's still use the same architecture until we have the quantum computing. I think that we have the same computer environment like the Von-Neumann architecture. It's using the memory for to access the data from the CPU like that. So if possible, keep the textbook, but you don't have to buy. Instead, you need to return, right, after the class. So you can borrow. So please use. You already paid in your tuition, right? So please use. So it's free, not free actually. You can borrow from. If you enroll, then you can borrow from the bookstore. Then use it. This textbook is, I think, one of the famous database textbook used in the worldwide. I heard from my old student from India, China, they already used the same textbook in their country, sometimes undergraduate and graduate level. This textbook is over 1,000 pages. The reason is that it covers the whole variety of the database-related topic, from the very basic to the new trend. So actually, the main author of this textbook, the Elmasari, he's my PhD supervisor. So he usually didn't do any research right now because he got the money from the publisher. But he was well known for the conceptual database design. So he was one of the researchers from the Stanford University where they design and propose how to design the data and database. It's a conceptual database model, and also eventually it will be the ER model that we are going to use throughout the semester, still used in the market. So, but he's a little bit lazy nowadays. He didn't update a lot. You can find some typo, but the main things that you can get the idea. It's I think even you can study by yourself using the textbook. So I'm going to use this textbook, but I'm not directly use the textbook like the reader line by line. So even though I do not assign the reading assignment, please try to use the textbook to get if you cannot get the main concept of the lecture from in the classroom, and then read the textbook. So best way is before the class, read the textbook, then attend, then review again. That is the best way. I don't think you guys do the preview and the review and so on. Please, if you do not understand clearly, read the textbook. It's explain detail with some nice examples. Okay, this is the textbook that I'm going to use. Mostly in my class, I'm going to use a PPT file. I did the half and half. So I'm not going to fully use the PPT file. PPT file is kind of a supplementary. It's helping my lecture. A couple of 2-3 years before, I didn't use the PPT file. Instead, I tried to use only whiteboard and explain the concept and the example. But nowadays, most of the students rely on the PPT file to study and everything. So student complain they need something because sometimes I know that when you're tired, you can sleep in the classroom. If you miss some of the lecture without PPT, then there's no way to catch up. So I think the half an hour. Sometimes I'm going to use the PPT file, sometimes not. So, but the best way is please review some of the material if you don't understand clearly, and a preview and the review. Okay. So then don't worry about too much grading policy. So depending on the overall performance throughout the semester, it can be changed. So if I believe that you are so smart, so I'm going to assign the more assignment and the homework and so on. If not, I will assign more. So to push you guys up. So but anyway, so it's a lot. Okay, it can be the change. But the grading policy also, if I apply the very strictly this one, nobody can get the A or even the B plus. So I usually apply the curve after I finalize the final score. So you don't have to worry about too much. Like I got the 60 from the midterm. My midterm exam is around the 70 in average. So you don't have to freak out. So the score. So I'm going to apply the curve, the undergraduate and the graduate separately at the end. Okay, I will definitely let you know at the end of the semester. Okay. So attendance, from time to time, I'm going to check the attendance using the Canvas. So if you are lucky, so you can get the full credit for the attendances. So, but if your name, when your name is called but you are not here, so you may get the deduction. Okay. So this is the schedule by the week. So you can see the midterm, the spring break is here. So it's right, March 8th. I think I checked the academic calendar from the UB website, so probably it's right. So our exam is after the midterm, the spring break. Okay, I think the most of the professor will have the midterm this week, but in my case, I try to give them more time for you to study. Or if you want to enjoy the spring break, it's okay. But it may be, the reason is that there are a lot of the contents the first half of semester. Probably I cannot finish such a topic before the spring break. So I may need one more week this week. So it may be possible the midterm exam may be the end of the March like that. I try to finish the database design part. As you can see, after the midterm exam, I'm going to cover some of the topic, advanced topic in the database, not the design, the database itself. So for example, the disk storage, how to store the physical data using the DBMS. So it's a file structure and indexing structure, functional dependency, query optimization, query processing, the transaction management. Those are the advanced topics in the database management system, not database design. So after I finish this one, after the midterm exam, I tried my best to introduce more the topic, advanced database topic. This part is a little bit the challenging part for undergraduate student. So definitely you need some experience on the computer organization and operating system and so on. Okay. One of the most frequent asked question is, I do not have background in programming. Then I cannot help you. So this class requires some basic experience on the programming. So if you already took the CS 101 and 102 for undergraduate student, I think that you are fine. And also the graduate student, if you already know or familiar with at least one of the program languages, including the Java, C, C++, the C#, or what is Python, it will be fine. But if you never use anyone non-computer science major here, I think that. So what is your major?
I'm sorry.
So what is your major?
Computer science.
Computer science. Then you're a little bit fun. Because sometimes the technical management or the electrical engineering student takes my course. So, but I think all you guys are from the either CE or the CS, so it'll be fine. Because we have the semester-long the project to develop the database based DB-based application. So you are going to create the system. To do that, definitely you need to use, I'm not going to assign the specific program language. You can select any preferred language like that. You can use Java if you want. You can use the Python. You can use what is the C#. So then, as a backend, you need to use the database. In this semester, I'm going to use the MySQL database on GCP. Okay. So I'm not going to allow. So and let me, before we start, let me introduce the project. Then next. You can see the sum of the class activity. First, exercise lab. The exercise lab will be done in this classroom, not the lab. Okay. But to do that, this semester, I'm going to use the Google Cloud Computing, so which means you don't have to worry about the PC or laptop, whatever. As long as you are connected, so you are good. So instead, I'm going to give the $50. So if you already took my class, anyone who took my class before? No one? So just like any other class, I'm going to use the cloud computing. So last semester, I have used both the AWS and the Google Cloud Platform, GCP, but it's confusing. So I decide the database class, I'm going to use the GCP, and the big data course later. So like the next semester, I'm going to use the AWS and so on. Then you guys can get the experience both AWS and the GCP. Those are the top 2 of top 3. So the third one is the Microsoft Azure, the cloud computing, because nowadays all computing environment quickly move to the cloud computing. So definitely you should know how to use the cloud computing. So this semester I'm going to use the GCP. I don't ask, you don't have to have the in-depth the knowledge and experience on the cloud computing, but if you never use the cloud computing, so first time it will be a little bit tough. But once you get used to it, it's just like for example, think about when you use the smartphone first time. So it's actually now you understand the smartphone. Cell phone is the same as any computer, but there is a different interface like that. So same thing, cloud computing is the same computer as what you have. So like the laptop and other, but it's different interface. You need to connect the console and set up the virtual machine and then log on using SSH like that. So this semester I'm going to use the GCP, and we got the $50 the coupon from the GCP, so I'm going to give the coupon code. Then first, I think the exercise lab for the GCP, we are going to activate. You are going to create the first MySQL database instance. So I'm not going to allow to use a local database. I know some of you guys already use the database in the other classes, like the web application or the programming class, then install the SQL Server on your laptop and connect the database. But nobody uses such the local database. If you join any real project after graduation, so they use the database remotely. You don't know, you never seen the database, but you should be able to connect the database from your application. We will discuss what's the architecture of the 2-tier, 3-tier environment. To do that, so this is your laptop. So you are connected to the internet, then connect to the Google Cloud. Okay, so I don't think we may have a little bit time to introduce what is cloud computing and what is the GCP. But cloud computing is virtual machine, like the iCloud and Google Drive to save your file on the remote side. It's the same thing. But to use the GCP, you need to create the virtual machine. So after this is called the compute engine in the on GCP. Then you can create a MySQL database. Then you are ready to use it. So for each student will have their own database instance. Then you can do the practice like the exercise, the database exercise like the SQL and the database programming. So you can do any exercise like by yourself. Okay. So each student will create their own instance. But I'm not going to allow the local database. I can download the SQL Server from the Microsoft website and I can create, but you cannot get the full experience to use the database. Sometimes you may have the problem to connect the database because they require sometimes SSH and you need to open the port, and if you do not understand such a security, so you cannot connect your databases. So that's the reason I want you guys get the more experience to use such a cloud computing environment. Then you can run the SQL database programming and the database design, and also as well as your database project. So I'm going to introduce what is the database project. Then that is the exercise lab. Sometimes from time to time you can see the homework. So on Canvas. So this is already assigned. So you need to catch up the due date. Okay, I'm not going to remind you. So whenever we finish the certain lecture, like the chapter 3 and 4, the chapter 3 homework is here. So you need to submit your answer to the Canvas, not the classroom. Okay, so to do that, I think all you guys are able. So already some of the students already connect log in the Canvas. So please. If you are not familiar with the Canvas, please log on the Canvas. Then you can find you already enrolled to the CPSC551. So don't be confused, the undergraduate student. Even though it's a 551, you are in the classroom. Okay. Then this view is different from the yours. So I think that I have the student view. Let me check. So this is the student view. So if you log on the Canvas, it's like that. And you can find the assignment, which is due on the first, chapter 3 is due on the February 7th. So you need to submit your answer by the due date. The most of due date by the Friday. Then I allow the grace period by the same, the Sunday. For example, if the homework 1 is due on this Friday, and the next day is allowed to submit. It's a late submission, but without penalty. Okay, so you can still keep the modifying, revising, and submit your homework. But after the Sunday, like the Monday, is the close, so you are not able to submit. So please try to submit your homework by the due date. So everything should be on the Canvas. So project, assignment, unless I explicitly mention, you need to submit your homework in the classroom. Okay, some of the assignment you can submit on your paper. So, but otherwise you need to use the Canvas. Okay, then you can find the lecture note from the file. Everything is here. So if you've never been there, so please download. And any update, I changed the lecture note, it will be posted on the Canvas, not the syllabus website. Okay. And you can check your grade. I heard that there's a new grading system on Canvas from this semester. I didn't check it, but anyway, you can check your grade from the Canvas. Also, one more important thing for communication. So please, regarding to any the question or the anything related to this class, please use the Canvas message. So if you go to the inbox, so even, I don't know why success denied, it's probably student view. So let me make the student view. So inbox may be like this one. So I'm going to even send any the broadcasting message through the Canvas, not the UB email. So it's your responsibility to check the Canvas message. Okay. So also, if you want to make the appointment, or if you have the problem like the snowy day, the question, please use the Canvas message, because I received at least 30, 40, 50. Nowadays it's better. I have less spam mail on my UB account, but still I have a lot. So sometimes I miss. So, but if I usually clean up. If I respond or anything or reply, I delete. Otherwise, it's ready. So now it's clear, which means I did everything so far. So please use the Canvas message. Then you can get the response within a day at least. Okay. Any questions so far? Great. Then what else? Homework is done. The project is not yet. Oh, the midterm. So maybe change it, but hopefully we can do the midterm exam by the chapter up to the chapter 9. But I will confirm before the exam. Okay, the final is like that. I do not know the final exam date. It will be assigned by the registrar office. So, but I know that some of you guys need to book in advance. So, but I cannot change the exam schedule. It depends on the decision of the registrar office. Mostly, based on my experience, it will be the Tuesday 8 to 10 during the exam. Okay. So, and project. So this semester, our topic is the UB course registration system. Because you are familiar with how to register, and I know that many of you guys still complain that it's not like the convenient system. Then you can make your own, the registration system, okay? So I don't have to explain what is a course registration, but it is you to design what kind of functionality and what the information you guys design for the UB course registration system. But my guideline is like the college level registration. It's not like the kindergarten continuing education center. So college level, which means it may have the department information. It also has the major and the course and the student, and some of the students are major, minor, and the staff and so on, and the classroom. So that is the course registration system. The first thing you need to keep in mind regarding to the project is this is not the programming contest. Okay. This course is a database design, so how to set up the database on the GCP using MySQL, and how to design and how to create, and then how to connect is more important. However, even though you did the perfectly and everything is good and outstanding, but if you just finish the design and implement the database, you cannot get the full credit throughout from the project, because this one is used for the backend. Backend means I'm going to explain why we are going to study the database and database system. So it's a backend. Without database, first question, anyone who are using the DBMS right now? Nobody. Me, I don't use. So, for example, if you manage your contact information, how do you manage? How can you keep your friend list or such a thing? I'm using the Google, the contact. And sometimes I'm using the just a text file to my friend's name and address and the phone number. That's it. I don't use the database because database is not personal purpose. Okay, nobody uses the database for personal purpose. Instead, it's for enterprise level, the system. Can you create any application without database? Yes, database system you don't need. But can you create any application without data? What do you think? No. So our application is based on data. So for example, hello world. What is the data? Hello world string is the data. So you are using such a data. However, when we have like the billions of hello world string, so you cannot type everything on your application. You cannot create the string, okay? Or you cannot create the data structure for the billions of the 1 terabyte string. At that time, we need database system. So database system is needed when we have very, very large data. So throughout the semester, we will see. Okay? So because of that, so far, database as a backend was not the critical on your application or on your programming class or the project. But in this class, your application should be based on this. That doesn't mean that you can create only the database. You need to have the programming. Okay? So using Java, whether using web application, using Python, whatever the program language is, you can use, select the programming and connect the database to select the data, okay, to get the data. So keep in mind, so not only create and implement the database system, but you need to create the application program. But which one is more important? This one is more important. So when I grade, so this one is more important, but still I'm going to look at the overall implementation of your database system. So because of that, so it's page 1 through the 5. 5 is application development. Okay, each step has the due date. So it's a semester-long project. So you have time. So this semester, because we have less students than usual, this will be the individual project. So each student create own database and their own application system. Okay. So first, the homework. So you don't have to form a team, but you need to design the registration system. Each student may have the different style of the registration system. So if you do not have any idea, you can just follow the typical registration system. It's not outstanding. You may not get the extra point. But think about your experience. If you feel that something, the inconvenience or any complaint, you can consider on your database design. Okay. So first step. So it's not required any programming. It's not required any experience. It's just the design, the brainstorming, like that. Okay. So you don't have to form a group this time. So just an individual, but. So you need to think about based on your knowledge and the experience what program language you are going to use. It should be also a good idea. So like I never used the Python, but the Python is nowadays a very, very the important program language. I'm taking the Python class this semester. Then it's a good experience to study and apply your knowledge to the database, the programming. And many other options. But do I teach how to use Python to connect the database? I cannot teach everything, every combination. Okay. So, but you can find from their website, like the Python website, and their tutorial, and how to connect the MySQL databases. So that is another thing you need to figure out the semester. Even though I covered some part of such a database connection in our exercise lab, but some of the students use popular. It's not popular if the program language is not popular program language. So you can find how to connect, how to set up database from your program language. Okay. So I think that you guys can start the step 1 and step 2 and the step 3. Okay, even though, for example, step 3 is you don't have to write the programming or you don't have to write the database, the design. It's just plain English. Okay, in English. So like for example, the student can register a course. Okay, or student can register multiple courses, and the student can select the section, or the student can list the registered course, or the instructor can see the number of enrolled students. It's in plain English. That will be your function in your final project. Okay, so please go through the requirement on page 4. If there's any assumption like the payment, so student can pay the tuition, then are you going to set up the PayPal, something like that? So you can just pretend. So if you select and pay like that, you don't have to go through the transaction. But if you want to, you can do that, but you need to pay something to connect with such a payment option or the shipping or whatever. So at the time, so if you have any such assumption, you can specify. So I'm going to pretend the payment method or like that. Okay, this the database, the registration system focus on the college level, not university level like that. Okay, so if you have any assumption, then please specify. So phase 1 is just the writing. Okay, design, brainstorming, and the writing up and setting up your project. Then submit to the Canvas. By the due date is next week. So next week, so we will see, because some of the students dropped this course because you don't like me, and the other student may come. So we will see the students. So maybe the 1 week extend, but you guys can start right away. Okay, that is a project, and for each step, I'm going to explain the more details what you guys need to do. But one more time, this is not a group project, so it's individual this time. So I don't explain each step because this is you may realize this is the same step as the syllabus. Okay, whenever we cover, for example, the conceptual design, page 2, and the system part, and the physical database design, database program. So it's along with our course topic. Okay. Any question regarding to the project? There is no specific template, okay, because it's not the research paper or but it's just the cover, and for each step you can write down. Okay, but please check your typo and try to make the formal writing. Okay, it doesn't have to be research paper, but if you just use TXT file, so or just the scratch, so you may not get the full credit. Based on the first page, the writing up, I should be able to imagine what you guys are doing and what you design regarding to the database project. That's pretty much. From time to time, I'm going to assign the pub quiz or the pub assignment. So if I cannot finish all the lecture that the design plan, okay, then or sometimes the snowy day, we may usually 1 or 2 days of the snow. So because of snow, the university will be closed. Then at the time, I'm going to assign the homework in the classroom, okay, or sometimes quiz. So at the time, if I ask you to submit to the Canvas, you can submit to the Canvas. Otherwise, if I ask you to bring your homework to the classroom, next class, you can bring. So at that time, usually it's a handwriting, like the drawing or Because I believe you, but sometimes you are so busy or tired, so you don't have enough time to do your homework, so you just copy your friend the homework, so it will be considered as the cheating. So if I catch any such a cheating or pressurize the submission, so that first time, that the assignment or that the homework, that the exam will be 0 mark. And second time, the entire semester will be failed. Okay? The simple rule is if you do the homework, any activity by yourself, totally fine. Okay? And also some of the students, I understand, so like the Wikipedia a lot. All right, internet search, so just copy and paste, and so then at the time you may not get the full credit, or sometimes it will be considered as a cheating. Okay, so simple rule is please do your homework by yourself. Okay. Then this course will be recorded because I may have the online degree student, but do not rely on the lecture. This semester, the moment I'm going to be in charge of throughout the semester, or any other for the videotaping.
Yes.
So you are in charge of
Yes.
the videotaping
Yes.
this semester. So if you want to see the recorded video, so sometimes you may miss the class or sometimes the traffic, then let me know. I will let you know the link of that. Okay. Do you need more information to upload the video, or do you know?
The same, yes. The same.
You
yeah,
have it?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't change the
Yeah,
password,
okay.
so you can do that. Okay, then I will let you know the link to watch the lecture video to catch up later. But the basic rule is you present in the classroom and take the lecture. Before we start, I usually start the first class with the $10:45, I guess. So, if you already took my course before, what is this? This is? Anyone? Tanya? I introduced in summer. So, what do you think? Oh, I forgot one thing. One very important thing. Hold on, not yet. I'm going to check your attendance. Are you going to leave? No. Okay, please back. So, this is the course. Then dashboard. This is the okay. This will not be considered for the okay. Jake, Aaron, Tanya, and Nikita,
Yeah.
and Joel.
Here.
And Labharat, and Sunny Singh, and Sri Rao. I cannot find your name.
I haven't registered.
Oh, okay. It will take the day. And your name? attendance check. But today, the attendance will not be considered your grade. It's just the check your name. So, throughout the semester from now on, so this one will be it's our computer. Okay. So today we are going to start with to understanding what is a computer and what is the computing architecture, then eventually why we need the database and the database design. Okay. So what is the main component of the computer system? It's just a very basic level of the computer organization. So what is the most important part? CPU. Okay, so we have the central processing unit, the CPU, or sometimes it's called the processor. Okay, that is the CPU. And anything else? Memory. So we have the CPU and memory. Okay, these two are the most important part of the computer. And what else? Yes?
Power supply?
Power supply, definitely, because it's an electronic device, okay? So we need the power and the power supply and the feeder, any electronic device. So that's a good answer. Think about what is a computer, by the way. So this is a very basic, very high level of computer. I know if you already do the computer organization, or even though you don't take such a course, you know we have the other I/O peripheral, I/O devices like what else? So we have a monitor, and we have even the hard disk drive, and we have the mouse and many other things. They are connected through the bus. Okay? So this is the very high level computer the architecture. Then, what is a computer?
In simple words, it's an electronic device.
Electronic device.
Yes, and
We have a bunch of other electronic devices. This is also electronic device. So do you think that sometimes nowadays some of the camcorder is regarded as the computer?
it's more like process data.
Process
and
data.
gives out output.
Mm-hmm. Jake, what do you think? What is a computer?
The system pretty much.
System. Tanya? You major in computer.
I'm familiar with his definition. It's
Yeah.
an electronic device that's used for processing information from the inputs and the output.
It's a very simple question, but as long as we are all of you and including me, so I in the computer science major, which means that until we die, we rely on computer, right? Pretty much, hopefully. So I don't want to be carpenters suddenly. So even though I like that handy work stuff, so probably the next 20, 30 years until I retire, even after retirement, I should use a computer. That's the source of my money. So it's the same thing. Then the computer. So if you define the computer like the electronic device, that kind of system, whatever, it's very short. Actually, history of computer start longer than you think. Like even the BC 3000, 2000, 3000 from Babylonian, they have the abacus, start the computer. Actually, computer starts from to compute something. So when you think about the definition of the dictionary, definition of teacher, what is a teacher? A person who teach, right? So computer is a person who compute. So we know that it's not person, it's a thing, okay? It's a device or it's a thing, something that compute. Because people realize that the human brain is not fast or accurate enough to calculate. Because once we start the business is, when I'm talking about the business, it's like the capital, like the 10,000 years ago, people actually hunt and get something, the food or the meat, and then they try to settle down. Once they settle down, why? How can people settle down the specific area? They can get the food from the farming or such a thing like the agriculture. So they don't have to moving around to hunt or to get the food, but they settle down. Then their capital, whether or not they use the money, but their capital, their property is bigger and bigger. So they cannot count by hand. They cannot calculate. Even the government, they need to collect the money, like the tax. Then so sometimes 10% in your mind, what is 10%? So they cannot buy themselves. So they need something to have such a calculation. That is a calculator. It's the starting of the calculator. So people believe the first calculator is starting from the BC 3000 from Babylonian. It's called the abacus. Abacus is like what is that? It's a marble and calculate. It's a 4-5 thing. It's like that. I used before. I'm not very good because in mine, the elementary school, even the math class, we teach how to use abacus, but I was not good. But that is the first the people believe. Then until the Industrial Revolution, when was the first Industrial Revolution?
The
1800 from the England. So until that time, people actually developed and design and a lot of such a calculator. Leibniz calculator, something, the calculator, they use the gear, sometimes they use the water, the stream, and to get the power. But until the Industrial Revolution, they have used the natural power. So like the gear and the human power. So it's limited. But still we consider such a device, such a thing as a computer. But after Industrial Revolution, we got the electricity. Okay, so from the electricity, so the computer can be implemented based on electronic device. So how? If I turn on, it's 1. Turn off, it's a 0. So using such a on and off, the electricity has a current. So it's not it was not simple, but it's relatively easy to represent the current and nothing and the current. Okay, so it's not like the straight line. It's like if you took the E class, what is the signal? It's like this. So using switch, so you can control the current. Okay, then you can represent it 0 or 1. That will be basic of the binary system. So we can use from the mathematics. So we can use a binary system to represent 0 or 1. Based on that, we can represent any number, right? So you learned how to convert the binary and decimal, right?
Yeah.
You can do that. So even though you cannot remember everything, but we can convert binary to the decimal to binary. If you can convert such a number, what can you do? You can represent A, B, C using what? Coding. So you can use the 0000 is A, 0001 is B, 0002, 0010 is B, like that. It's called the ASCII code. So using only the 1 byte. What is a byte? So 0 or 1 can represent only one thing, on and off. It's in terms of binary, it's 1 digit. That's called the bit. Okay? Then, if we have a multiple bit, we can represent more complicated number. Like the 8-bit is 1 byte, like that. Okay? So then the 1 byte is the minimum data structure to represent the meaningful information like the letter. Okay? Why? ASCII code decide to use the 8-bit to represent A is a 00001. It's not true. You can search the, I cannot remember all the code, but like that. Then nowadays even the emoji is standardized, okay, using the Unicode. Okay, so every year they add a new such a symbol or letter and even new language. So that is a coding using such a code, ASCII code, Unicode, or UTF-8, and so on. We can represent any information using binary. Okay, so then the computer uses such a system. Then finally, if we have the power, then using such a power, we can operate such a very complicated system, computer. Then we'd like to see what is each component. What about the CPU? What is the main role of the CPU?
That's for processing data.
Processing data. And what do you think? What is the data? It said it's a processing data. What is the data?
Information.
Information. So what do you think? So information and data are the same?
It takes the input.
Input?
The CPU takes the input and processes the data.
So input, data, and process it. So what is the data? What is the information?
I think information is the processed data.
Process the data. Information is the process data. And what about the process means?
We manipulate the primitive data to get the information we want.
I think the overall you guys understand. So what is the data? What is the information? What is the main role of the CPU? CPU is like the brain. It processes the data. When we talk about the processing, so like my brain, so can computer the fear, the love, or such a thing? No. CPU cannot process such an emotion. CPU can process the data, what we will see, such a different data, information or data. So let's say the data, based on what?
The input from whatever devices you have going into it.
Input based on input. What about what is the example of the CPU? What kind of CPU are you using? Intel? AMD? These are the manufacturer of the CPU. So if you are asked to design and manufacture the CPU, what you guys need to do?
Wait, what did he say?
If you are asked to design and manufacture the CPU, what you guys need to do?
Computer architecture.
Computer architecture is too broad. CPU can do the operation, only designed one. Like for example, add. Okay? Or multiple, substitute, and shift. These are called what? Instruction. Okay? When Intel developed a new CPU, they actually started from the arithmetic operation, ALU, then the more complicated one. So no matter what types of the processing is the deep learning or whatever, they can do only this designed operation, this processing. Okay? Then based on this operation, you can do the what? Machine language, assembly, program. Then this is a program, but this command instruction are limited by the manufacturer. Okay? Even though face recognition or image processing, whatever, they are based on this instruction. Okay? They can process data. Processing means operate this instruction. So your programming is not like this. Your programming is like the integer I, so I can for loop I in the data and then the print whatever. This is not this, right? This is called high-level programming. Because this instruction is too difficult to understand. This one is for what? Machine. Your computer, electronic device, not for human being. So we cannot understand this one. Instead, we need another program language that very, very similar as what? Human natural language, like the English. Okay. So this is called high-level language. Then we need to convert, translate to such a machine language using what? Compiler. Okay. So compiler changes the machine language assembly code. Then finally CPU can process any input data using only this instruction. It's limited by this instruction. So it is very important actually to understand what kind of the operation can my computer do. Okay. Some of the CPU can have the very limited. Some of the CPU can have usually how many instructions for each the CPU nowadays? 1,000? 10,000? It's less than 200 instructions. If you have more than that, your computer will be crazy. Okay? Most of the CPU is less than 150, 60, less than 200 instructions. That's pretty much enough. Even you don't use all these 200 instructions. Most frequently used instruction is less than 30, 40. You never use the other. Okay? 8-bit, for example, even remote control has a controller inside. It's a 4-bit, the controller. It has the instruction also. Okay? It has also instruction, like whenever I click the certain button, that the add or the something like that. So it's the CPU. So CPU can the process. Processing means run the instruction command. Okay? So that is a CPU. Then CPU has such an instruction plus what? It has actually some of you guys already mentioned, as an input, the CPU processes the data. Where is the process? And where is the data? CPU has the storage inside. So where data is stored, like the 1 is here, 2 is here. Then if you add this one, and the 3 will be stored at the storage. This one is called what? Register. So CPU used such a register as a location. So a lot. What is the most frequently used the instruction code? Any CPU? What? Add. Good. Anything else? Sure. Shift. Shift is also good. Anyone? Yes. It's actually the move. Move is the most frequent. Why? Because you can move the data here to here, here to here. Also, this is the storage where you can store such input data. How much bit? How many? If you are using 64-bit processor, it's very small actually. You cannot have the really big size of the storage. It's really complicated and a lot of power consumption. So we cannot have such a big storage. Instead, it's a register 1, 2, and maybe 16, or 32, or 64. That's pretty much enough. Then though we cannot even process the 1 megabyte data. So CPU cannot keep permanently all the data on the register. Instead, it needs primary storage. So RAM is their actually primary storage. So RAM is read-only memory, or sometimes it's just called the memory. Okay, it's a volatile. And what is a memory, by the way, in terms of the architecture, computing architecture? What is a memory?
Like capacitor? Like.
Memory is really, really simple comparing to the CPU. Memory is just like this. And it's a set of address. That's it. It's a room for each. In terms of electricity, electrical engineering, it has a signal. So if you have the two signal here, then it's a 1 or 0. It's just storage by the, in terms of data structure, it's 1 byte, 1 byte, 1 byte, 1 byte. Like that. That's the memory. Okay? The problem is how much big and the small the device. So that's the, so long time ago, memory is like the drop, like the disk drive. And it's only for the 1K or even the 128 byte. But nowadays, 1 terabyte, several terabyte is small SD card like that. It's also memory, right? But still, their data structure, in terms of data structure, they are the same. It's like the create room where you can put the data. Because the register is not big enough, so you need the storage. It's the primary storage. Okay? Then you can actually bring the data, input data, from memory to register using move. And once you process, going back, register to memory, you learn, right? You can remind what you learned in your the computer organization class or the digital signal pro. What is the name of the class? Where you learn the microprocessor class, right? So you learn the assembly and the data structure, the system architecture. So that is the memory. Okay, so memory is like the storage box, my bag. So because I cannot keep all the information about the database in my register in my brain, so my brain is too small, so I can keep all the such information in my bag. It's much bigger. Then I can pull out whenever I need, or whenever I need to save, so I can write and save to keep in the memory. So later, if I need, I can pull out that information. That is the CPU and the memory. Okay? If you have but the memory is good enough. It's not really enough to keep all the data. Nowadays, our data size is bigger and bigger, so we cannot keep all the data on the memory. Also, one of the main problems of the memory is it's a volatile. Volatile means if you do not have power, you lose the data, the memory. There are some non-volatile memory, like the SD card, okay? But for example, the cell phone nowadays, they mostly use the SD card as the memory, so you still keep such a data. But if you are using the laptop, so you need a bigger size of memory, that the memory has only the 8 gig or 16 gig. And also without power, you lose the data, so we need storage. So this is called hard disk drive. In terms of the application, it's called a file system. So as a secondary storage, you can have such a file system to keep such a data. So in other words, if you want to process the data, so I run the A.out program. Okay? What happened? Where is your A.out program? If you run the GCC, the C program language, so A.out is the default, the executable file, if you remember. So, but anyway, it's the executable file. Where is the A.out? Here, file system. Okay, so file system. If you open this file with something special editor, it has a bunch of instructions. This one was coded by your high-level language and compile into this one. It has all the request, the command, process, how to process the data. So you order through this program language and compile, and it got out. This is the executable file. But how can the CPU use this one? You need to run the program. Okay? How can you run the program? Click or touch. Or sometimes if you are using command line interface, you can type the command. Then what happens? What happens when you touch? Compile is already compiled. What happened? How make your CPU use this command? Anyone? In computer, any computer system, so I purchased a new laptop. Can you use the computing resource when you purchase a new laptop? What happened when you turn on the new laptop? Actually, unless you purchase the operating system, you cannot use any computer resource. Your computer itself is a hardware device. They don't know how to operate themselves. You need to order. How can you order? You need to use operating system. So what is operating system? Everyone knows what. So if you are using MacBook, it's a macOS. If you're using the Windows laptop, it's a Windows 8 or 10. If you're using the iPhone, it's iOS. If you're using Android phone, it's Android OS. Everybody use operating system. What is operating system? It's a program, computer program. Okay, but it's not simple program. It's bunch of really big the program. Because of that, Microsoft to charge you $100 for their operation. It's not free. It's a really big, complicated program, but that operates what? Your computer. You don't have to worry about too much. Instead, operating system is kind of an interface program between hardware, your computer, and the human, yourself. Then we don't have to worry about it. But that operating system use process. Think about if your laptop is slow. First thing you need to do is open the task manager and check how many processes. I have too many processes. My process is so slow. So always you are using process, name of process. What is the process? Process. So when you program, when you create the program, so you learn the Python. So Python, you run your application. Always process. Deep learning, so I set up the keras and the training module and so on. Process is running. What is a process? If you are taking operating system class, you need to spend half of the semester to understand the process. But within a minute, let me explain what is a process. Process is a memory data structure. So CPU eventually accesses your instruction code, your program. But CPU cannot access directly your program. Why? It's too slow. How much faster your CPU? 2.6 gigahertz, 5 point whatever. It's really, in a second, how many instructions? It's a 1.2 giga times of instruction will be processed. It's so fast. Your hard disk drive, really, really slow. It's like the turtle compared to the high-speed train. Directly, the information from the hard disk drive or file system is that memory. So, which means you need to upload your program to the memory. How? Operating system provide the rule and data structure. Okay? So your room is 32 KB. And the first part should be header. Second part is the stack. Third part is the heap and so on. It's a very detailed data structure. Then the instruction will be copied. Then finally CPU can access such a memory space using the address. So this memory space data structure is called process. So process is the memory data structure where your program is loaded. So finally, your CPU can access the instruction and the data. Okay? Then, this is the one more thing. How they send such a data? Through what? Using what? At that time, you can use the bus. So bus is kind of a hallway, especially it's a highway, like the lane. If you have the 16 lane, you can send the 16-bit at one time. This is called the 16-bit processor. If you have the 64, nowadays most of computer is a 64, how many? It's a 64 lane. So 64-bit data will be sent at one time. It's much faster. Okay, it's not linear, it's exponentially faster. So this is the 64-bit processor. Then you can send and receive the data through the bus. Some of the bus will be specialized for the I/O, like the input and output device, screen, and the mouse. So the other is specialized for the hard disk drive, file system, like the cache and the some. Some of them are universal, which means common, like the USB. USB is also a bus, universal serial bus, like that. So this is the overall architecture. Then finally, when you have the program, as we little bit discuss about this program, all program, there's no program without data. It has the data, which means we already use the data, such a data structure, where? Memory. So when you start your program, then memory will be allocated, then where CPU can access the instruction and the data. So without creating the relational database, Oracle database, we still use the data. How? This one is called memory-based database. Memory-based database, we already use the data. And data structure, database is memory-based. Like if you create the integer I in your program, integer I is the data structure to keep the data. Or sometimes you can create the array. You can create the list. You can create the tuple. It's a data structure. It can be used for the database. The problem of such a memory-based database is, as we have seen here, it's so small. When we have a large amount of data, memory is not big enough. In operating system, we address such a problem full of memory. What? Using virtual memory. Using virtual memory concept, page in and out. This is very important indicator to measure the performance of your system. Page in and out, but it takes a longer time. Your system will be slow. So we cannot use the virtual memory for the very large data. So at the time we need different data structure to keep very, very large amount of data. So that is called the database system. So if you do not have the very large amount of data, you don't have to use database. Okay? Memory is enough. You can create your memory, the data structure, integer, string, or the class, or the tuple, sometimes dictionary. However, when you have a large amount of data, we need to separate the data structure, which is called the database. At that time, our data structure organization is different from the memory. Memory-based data structure rely on what? Program language. Have you ever thought about how Java string is organized? Nobody see the source code of the string class, right? we don't have to worry about that. That is called the abstraction level. Hide behind, we don't have to worry about too much. But what about when we have the very large amount of data? It should be different approach. Like if you go to the wholesale, like the Costco, well, the Costco is different from the 7-Eleven, right? Wholesale the storage, they organize the merchandise different from the how 7-Eleven organized, right? Because they have the very large amount of data. Same thing, when we have the large amount of data for the database system, it's different. So throughout the semester, we are going to learn how to do that. At that time, the solution, we are going to use a relational database. Okay? So we are going to learn how to design the database using relational model. So from the next class, we will learn how to design the database using relational model. Then, I understand the relational model. Then how can I use? We need to have the software program. Do we have such a software? Not yet. So for the such a software, we are going to use the DBMS, Database Management System. Okay? So it's a different database design. Database management system are different. Database management system is a software. Like for example, Oracle Informix DB2, SQL Server, and MySQL. Then using such a software, we are going to create the database. Finally, it will be used for your computer. Then you are able to access such a data in your application. So we will see how to design and how to do that throughout the semester. Last thing, so some of the people criticize, do we really need to learn the database? This is the listen to it. So market share and the database market. So Oracle MySQL, as you can see, relational database, top 6 out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 10, top 10, the market share, the DBMS is a relational database still. Will not be changed because Oracle and MySQL, they more than half. So which means we probably next 10 years, we still use the relational database management system. Okay, so that's the reason why we are using and learn the relational database, especially MySQL and so on. Okay, any questions? Okay, so next class we are going to start the first introduction of the database and the database system. Then quickly we will start the relational database design, which is the ER model. Okay, thank you, and see you on Thursday 9:30.